How does the saying go? Anytime anything happens, you always have to try and make it about yourself. And that, I feel, is a sentiment that many fans of big Canadian markets will inadvertently end up doing over the course of an NHL season. And of course, because I am a Montreal Canadiens fan as well as a Vancouver Canucks fan, we had to try and weave these two ideas together and talk about how yesterday's barn-burning blockbuster trade relates to the Canadiens. Obviously, we're talking about the Elias Lindholm for Andrei Kuzmenko trade, that in which is available here on the YouTube channel. If you missed out on it, it's all there. But today, we are talking about how this trade impacts the Montreal Canadiens and how Kent Hughes has a gold mine that he is sitting on right now because of this trade. Now, this is going to be like half and half kind of commentary, talking a little bit about the Canucks, but mostly going over the Canadiens, particularly with the aspect of Vancouver's positioning with the trade itself. You see, Vancouver's management staff with Patrik Allvin and Jim Rutherford have been following some pretty similar trends that are not too new for them. For the most part, you could talk about how Rutherford likes to overpay for rentals. You can talk about how this team is targeting former Penguins. You could talk about how this team is targeting Swedes. But another aspect of Jim Rutherford's identity as an NHL executive, of somebody who makes trades and makes negotiations happen with other teams, is that GM Jim Rutherford, or former GM Jim Rutherford, he's not a GM anymore, he likes to set the market. And that is what he did yesterday, because the Lindholm to Vancouver trade was arguably the biggest trade that we have seen gone down up to this point in the NHL season. There were a few others that happened earlier, like, Erik Karlsson got sent over to Pittsburgh. You could debate whether or not the Cutter Gauthier Drysdale trade was as big. But for guys who are in the NHL right now, this Lindholm for Kuzmenko deal was arguably the biggest one this season. And GM Patrik Allvin went out and sent a haul. We had talked about this in the video yesterday, but the trade details go as follows. The Vancouver Canucks get themselves Elias Lindholm in exchange for Andrei Kuzmenko, Hunter Brzustewicz, Joni Jurmo, a first-round pick, and a fourth-round pick. Now, you could say it's an overpay, and I think if you list out all the assets on a list, you could be like, oh wow, look at that. The Flames got for an expiring guy, one NHL caliber player who is signed on till next year, a prospect that has been very good in the OHL, another prospect who has not been too hot, a first-round pick, and a fourth. That's crazy. That's a lot of stuff. But when you actually try to quantify how good these players and assets are, I mean, it's easy to see why the Vancouver Canucks made this deal. And even if it is for a rental, this list of all these guys is going to set the market for what players like Elias Lindholm are going to be able to fetch. The only problem is, when you talk about players like Elias Lindholm, there really only was one Elias Lindholm. So, where do the Montreal Canadiens go with this? Well, you have to start thinking about the fact that when it comes to rental centers available at this year's trade deadline, maybe, just maybe, Sean Monahan is the one guy remaining. And even though there may be a few other names that you could toss out there as extra trade candidates, I mean, go over to the fourth period and their trade watch list for 2024. Monahan isn't even the top forward. Lindholm was number 1, but then you had yourselves Adam Henrique, who is number 5 on this list. Scroll down, you can see that Monahan is behind Anthony Duclair as well. But when it comes to affordable centers, you could very well say that Monahan, with his $1.985 million cap hit and his productivity of 35 points in 49 games played, could be the best name there. Now, yesterday we did make a video talking about the Sean Monahan trade price and how this seems to have been revealed by Pierre LeBrun as to being a first-round pick, which would be very nice for the Montreal Canadiens to acquire heading into the offseason. But with this Elias Lindholm trade now happening yesterday, you could very well debate that the trade price for a Sean Monahan no longer is just a first-round pick, but maybe it's a first-round pick plus a significant prospect. Maybe it's a first-round pick plus a significant prospect plus a fourth-round pick. Elias Lindholm, you could debate, is more or less in the same tier as a Sean Monahan in terms of asset value, because you could very well say, hey, Monahan has more points than Elias Lindholm. That's true. Monahan is cheaper than Elias Lindholm. That's true. They're also the same age. They were both taken in that 2013 NHL Draft. So what's stopping a team from going out there and valuing Sean Monahan to the same extent that they would value Lindholm? And then it boils down to a few other things. The fact that Lindholm has been a very good two-way presence, the fact that he is right-handed, the fact that he has been better, let's just say longer, because Monahan, going through the ups and downs that he went through, put him in a really tough spot, which is why the Canadiens were even in a position to give him the role that he has now anyway. And then there's the idea that says that Elias Lindholm produces at 5v5. You could say that Monahan is on the first-line power play for the Montreal Canadiens, and if he gets traded to some other team, he may very well not be that guy. And he may very well not get the same production if he's not getting number one power play time. These are all fair ideas, but I think just reputation as well plays into it. Like, a lot of people still remember Lindholm for his 82-point season just 2 years ago with the Calgary Flames. Meanwhile, Sean Monahan's 82-point season was 5 years ago, and everybody remembers his ups and downs. So that kind of takes a toll on a player's trade value. But if this is the going rate for rental centers, the Hunter Brzustewicz, Yoni Yermo, Andrei Kuzmenko idea, then Kent Hughes may be sitting on a gold mine. Maybe it's not just a first-round pick that the Canadiens get when they trade Monahan away. And as we had talked about in yesterday's video, if you go down the route that says, yeah, Monahan actually liked it so much in Montreal that he'll re-sign and he'll come back next year, this could be even more great, because you trade Monahan away at the deadline. Let's say you get a first-round pick and a prospect. You sign Monahan in the offseason, he comes back for a one-year deal worth, let's say, $2-3 million. He plays in the top power play for the Canadiens again in 24-25, and then you trade him a second time in the 2025 offseason. You get even more stuff. This could be farming, rinsing, and repeating. It's like buying and selling penny stocks when they make the very small but significantly intricate movements upon the percentage gains. Like, this trade from yesterday was a huge deal. And even as a Vancouver Canucks fan, I'll go out there and say that I do believe the trade was a good move for Vancouver. I do believe that the assets that they gave up were appropriate for this type of a maneuver. It stings to lose out on Brzustewicz. It stings to lose out on the first. But Andrei Kuzmenko had negative value this season. That's just it. Yoni Yermo, the prospect, was not going to become anything. The fourth-round pick is a fourth-round pick. Who cares? And the first-round pick was kind of necessary to get this done. So, if this is now the going rate for rental centers, Kent Hughes, you have an opportunity to really take advantage of what other teams are going to be wanting. Because now that Elias Lindholm is off the table, you have to start considering, hey, we have one of the only available centers who may be on the market. He's significantly cheaper than Adam Henrique, and if we retain half of his salary, that $1.985 million AAV then becomes, what, $900,000? Like, a team getting this kind of a guy for that cheap on their cap hit probably will be pressured into giving up a little bit more than just a first-round pick. And we had talked about this yesterday, but the Vancouver first-round pick, I get it, it's a big deal. First-round pick, right? Mortgaging the future. But the Vancouver pick, like maybe, let's say, the Colorado Avalanche's first-round pick or the Boston Bruins' first-round pick, like, those picks are going to be in the 25-plus overall range. It's not going to be that big. And with the idea that the NHL Draft in 2024 kind of drops off at the 15 mark anyway, it makes it a lot more easily digestible, the idea of sending away a first and maybe some other stuff, because the first is just not that important anymore. So, Kent Hughes, you have an opportunity here to do something great with the market. Take advantage of how Sean Monahan has played and that Elias Lindholm trade. Montreal Canadiens fans, let me know in the comments section below, how does this Lindholm trade affect the price for Monahan? How much do you think it improves the situation for the Canadiens, and how much more do you think they'll be able to get in some sort of a transaction if they take advantage of a desperate Colorado team, if they take advantage of a team like Edmonton that may need a center? What are your thoughts on the idea of a Monahan trade now that we've gotten the first big domino to fall in this market? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.